Well, he came along at an interesting time where it was kind of the first generation being raised by televisions. I mean, with public television being such an important force for good, Sesame Street, other shows like Electric Company, and Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. So I think one of the first episodes that aired of the show is about the king building a wall. I mean, the laughter in the crowd, over the irony of that is just, where did you see these little finds of, and because there were so many connections to things that we deal with today with regard to gun violence, with building barriers and walls between peoples. A lot of that must have stood out to you. So tell me about those finds.
Well, I think it's interesting you bring up that first week on the program because, we actually screened the film twice that first day, right? Once in Park City and once in Salt Lake City, and for two very different communities of people, right? One is a film festival community, and one is, the community of local Utah politicians, statewide politicians. And I think to see that the humanity of Fred came through more strongly than any of the individual moments was incredibly comforting, right? Because Fred is someone who is simultaneously not afraid of change and capable of change, but understanding of the fear that change can engender in people and willing to talk about it. And I think that there's something that's so important about that message right now.
If ever you're going to have a figure that transcends partisanship or tribalism or any of that, it's Fred Rogers, because our connections to him generally predate our sense of self or tribe or politics or anything else. He's kind of a unique cultural figure who speaks to us at our earliest to self, and in a way speaks to how we should behave, like reminding people, this is how you should be a good neighbor. This is how you should treat other people. That's kind of a lesson that everybody should be constantly trying to remind ourselves of.
He was so, as a man of faith, but also he was so progressive in his thinking about everything. Race, sexuality, and in a way could explain that to kids. Where do you think that came from, and why aren't there more Fred Rogers? Why aren't there more people of faith who think the way he does? This is something that struck me as I saw it.
What makes me optimistic versus pessimistic is that regardless of where you come from, many of the people that we see walking out of screenings of this film feel like they're given enough ballast to be a better person, and the strength to move forward is actually within us. I love the fact that when people walk out of the film, who loved it, they'll say not, I'm going to recommend this to somebody else, but I want to take somebody else, because they want to be in that experience with somebody else. And I think that that's something about joining together versus splitting apart. And I think Joanne put it so well. She said, what would Fred be trying to do in this moment? Well, I think he'd be trying to mend the split. And there's so many splits along so many different lines. And I think there is a little bit of Fred that's left within each of us. And it's our opportunity now to try and mend the splits where we see them in our communities and in our lives.